Good morning, NFL, and welcome to the inaugural show called the Spire Wire, a weekly NFL news show. I come to you as just a fan. I don't claim to be an analyst. I don't claim to be a commentator. I don't claim to be an ex-player. I am merely a fan of one team, and that team is the New York Football Giants that have purged me for the last decade of any hope and happiness. And this show is going to be a news show about particularly the New York Giants and other happenings in the National Football League. And let's get right into the business here as we start to talk about what is next for the New York Giants as we head into the offseason. Now, there's obviously a lot to talk about here, but we need to get to brass tacks here. We obviously have free agency coming up soon after the Super Bowl ends, and of course, the NFL draft at the end of April. And we need to figure out what to do to the New York Giants to make sure that they are fixed by next year. Now, we have a lot of problems, that is for sure. And I'm not sure if everything can be fixed in this season, but there's definitely steps that they can take if Dable and Shane want to remain here year in and year out. The good thing about the Giants right now is that they're going into the offseason with a lot of cap. I'm not sure of the exact number. I'll put it somewhere here, but it's a lot of cap to use, a lot of cap to move around if they want to sign players in free agency. A team going 3-14 this past year. What to do, where to start, and we start at the top, the quarterback position, a position that they obviously have to address in the draft or in free agency as well. Now, when you look at the people surrounding the quarterback position, talking about the Giants, you hear some names in free agency. I mentioned the other day, Justin Fields, a name, maybe starting to lean that he might stay in Pittsburgh. You look at names like Sam Darnold, who's probably going to ask for a big contract, but I'm curious to see what that number actually is. But I think we're looking at, all of us are looking at one place, and that is the NFL draft. What are the Giants going to do at the number 3 pick? Are they going to draft a quarterback, or are they going to do something else? Now, obviously, you see the 2 quarterbacks early on in the board, Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward. Both names pretty much the unanimous 1 and 2 quarterbacks of this draft class, trying to see where they will land. Will the Titans have an opportunity to get a franchise quarterback? Will the Browns have an opportunity to get a franchise quarterback, leaving the 3rd spot for the New York Giants and potentially going to get one of those 2 men to be the starting quarterback for their football team? But I'm not sure if both of them are going to be there. They might be. One might be. We might get the scraps. One of the names that I'm seeing pop up frequently in my comment section is Jackson Dart. Now, I was going to make a video about Jackson Dart and his potential to come to the New York Giants this year as a draft selection, and you're starting to hear his name pop up a lot more as we got into the Senior Bowl this past week. His name kind of popping around. A little bit rumors with the Giants here, a little bit of rumors with the Giants there. Eli Manning liked him. Obviously, the Ole Miss connection there. That's a name that you hear a lot of people talking about. Jackson Dart. Does he have ability? Here's what I'll say about him. I like his ability. I was impressed by Jackson Dart watching him at Ole Miss this past year, watching him in the Senior Bowl this past week. Has a little bit of fire under his name right now. Here's my question. Would you take him at 3? And I would say probably not. If they decide to take Jackson Dart at 3, if Shedeur Sanders is off the board and Cam Ward is off the board, and they sit down and they say, you know what? We're going to take Jackson Dart at 3. Wrong. That is exactly what happened in 2019. Daniel Jones was a name that was drifting through the circles of the National Football League draft, and people were concerned. Who would take Daniel Jones really early? Is he a name that's going to be overdrafted? And it truly was. In 2019, a disaster. Took him way too high. Same point with Daniel Jones. He could have been drafted later. It's a guy they got really early that they could have put off till later. Jackson Dart seems to have the same story. Will he be available in the 2nd round? If the Giants do decide to take him in the 2nd round, I would be fine with that. I would not care for that. I think that would be a viable option. But if they take him at 3, it doesn't matter. It will be a bad decision on Joe Shane's part if they do that. Now, I'm not saying Jackson Dart is going to turn into an awful quarterback. He has potential to be a pretty good quarterback in the National Football League, but I'm not too sure if he is the pick at 3. I think that if they're able to get him in the second round, they could. But here's the follow-up to that. No matter which quarterback the Giants decide to draft, it doesn't matter. The offensive line has to be fixed. What is the one constant in the past decade that New York Giants quarterbacks have had to endure? Week in and week out. The terrible, horrendous, atrocious, vile, inhospitable, disgusting offensive line for the New York Giants. And when you look at the offensive line as a whole, you see nothing there. You just see a bunch of question marks. Obviously, starting at left tackle, you have Andrew Thomas, a lockdown left tackle that is pretty high up in the National Football League today. But as you look elsewhere, it's really question marks. The 2 right guard and left guard positions have been in complete rotation with names that consistently flip week in and week out. John Michael Schmitz, the man that we drafted 2 years ago that had enormous potential to be a solid center in the National Football League, has faltered this past season and now is a question mark at the center position. Will this be another bust draft pick on the offensive line by Joe Shane? That is to be concerned. And then you look at the right tackle position, Evan Neal, completely atrocious, calling fans burger flippers, expecting them to respect the man that was number 5th overall pick in the NFL draft, but has faltered completely, looks lost out there. And we got to give major props to the man that came into the Giants free agency of last year. Jalaine Illuminor has been a rock there this past year. When Andrew Thomas and Jalaine Illuminor were both at the tackle position last year, you saw the offensive line play better. You saw them play with a little bit of fortification. There was more confidence on the offensive line and allowed Daniel Jones a little bit more time to throw. And that's exactly what we need. So number one step in the offseason, kind of a 1A, 1B type situation, fix the offensive line. Find a way to get a man in here, and that is attacking an offensive lineman in free agency. The Giants have to go after a big-time free agent in the tackle or guard position. We need stability on the line. It has to happen. But you have to find a way to get one big-time name in here to kind of fortify the offensive line as we draft a quarterback. That is number one. How's it going? This is post-production Giants Spire, and this is the end of the episode. It wasn't a long episode, but I just wanted to get a feel for how the show works, trying to form my own style here. But if you liked it, please subscribe and tell me what you thought down below. There should be longer episodes and more in-depth segments soon, but this was just an introduction episode. But I'll leave you with one more clip from earlier in the week. And if you be so kind, let me reenact the Liam Cohen Duval right now. Jacksonville, the community. Duval. I would give it 10 out of 10 and 99.97% accuracy.